And we're back. Hi, and welcome back to Between Two Teachers. I'm Madeline Cronenberg,
And I'm Consuelo Lara.
and we're here again to speak with you about things that have to do with education in the United States and even beyond. First, we want to acknowledge where we are, and we are on the sacred lands of the Chochenyo Karkin Ohlone Native peoples in the California Bay Area. And they're the peoples who were here for thousands of years before the rest of us got here. So we acknowledge them at the beginning of each of our meetings with you. This has been an interesting time. We haven't met since Thanksgiving. We took a Thanksgiving break. And since then, we've gone into even more of a lockdown. We're at the pandemic and our lockdown continues on. We're still masking up. Districts are still searching for ways to deal with the pandemic and pandemic education. Throughout the planet, internationally, in some places, schools are back as a regular thing, even though the lockdown right now, as we approach the holidays, is incredible across the world. And certainly here in the Bay Area, the lockdown has become very stringent, and we're asked to stay home. At the same time, students and families of essential workers have to go to school. All different strategies are being put in place, and internationally, they're trying to. They are going to schools with a lot of different protections that the schools are offering their staff and their students. Nationally, places are trying to figure out whether or not they can stay open or not stay open. New York closed. They're considering reopening again very soon. All of it is in flux. People are I think they're stressed by the fact that the decisions keep changing, and they keep changing because the number of infections are changing. I mean, that's it. The decision makers are stuck trying to figure this out. And now we have a vaccine. The vaccine is about to be approved, but it's not going to be, everybody's not going to be vaccinated for some time. So we have to figure out how to maneuver that. Anyhow, the other thing that's happening nationally is the search for a new Secretary of Education. And Ms. DeVos will be gone, and all of her thinking and hopefully will go with her. And we will see, I think this week, we may know who the new Secretary of Education is. And it could be somebody we know in West Contra Costa.
I know.
But, yeah, it could be. Because President-elect Biden is looking for diversity, and we know that State Superintendent Thurmond, who used to serve on the West Contra Costa board, brings that diversity with him. Yeah. And that would be an amazing thing if he gets a position like that in Washington. So,
yeah. Oh my gosh, wouldn't that be something? So
it would. It really would. It really would. And not just that he's our local guy, but he does have the talent to help the children of, he really is the guy who has talent to do that. Now, I don't know, there are many other people as well that the president-elect's team is looking at. So we'll see.
Yeah.
But that's a big thing. And to see the changes that'll happen in that department as Ms. DeVos goes home.
Yes, goodness.
And really the big thing, there are so many things to it, but how things are funded, whether or not we get a universal preschool throughout the country. I mean, what types of values we bring to education for all children.
Yeah.
And I really do see the Biden administration doing that. Plus, Mrs. Biden, Dr. Jill Biden, intends to continue teaching.
I know.
In a community college, which is amazing.
Isn't that something? I know.
very different from our current first lady. And
Gosh, everything is just going to be so different about education. There's so much that needs to be done right now. This is it. They got to make these changes. Yeah. So,
but it's happening. This is the whole thing. The voters stepped up. This is, as we've talked about before, this is what it took. So in California, what we're looking at is a lot of different things. The schools are struggling with how they're going to do their reopening. In West Contra Costa, they've put the teachers union negotiated a memorandum of understanding with the district, as each teachers union did throughout the country, really, with the terms there as to what needs to happen for the school to reopen safely and for students to come back safely. And I've put a link to that on our Trello. It's a little hard to find on the district website, but it's on the UTR website, the teachers union website. And it just underscores the fact that right now we're not close, right? We're just not close, and it'll be a while before we are. It'll be a while. But go ahead.
I was just thinking that I would imagine be a different criteria when you're looking at the forming of hubs. So that would be
hubs are not reopening. Hubs are childcare.
Yep. So we should.
They're not schools.
That's right.
So the school, it is tricky, but
yeah.
But like so the childcare. Because there are essential workers have always, throughout the entire process here, have always had to have a place for their children to go, or they couldn't go to work, right? Yeah. So there's always been a set of rules around the childcare establishments. They've never been shut down.
Yeah, it's true. And
right.
So our district, well, they should have had the criteria up there like UTR does. Maybe they could put UTRs up there.
Yeah.
So you could see at least something. But on the hubs as well, because I know that's got to be in the works as we, move forward. So, okay.
Right. And because our families need to have choices, our families need to have choices, because otherwise what has happened, and I think this is the thing people forget. They think, well, we're not going to do anything because we want to look at everything through an equity lens, right? But by doing nothing, which is what we've done, we have done the exact opposite of that. Because if we think that the people who that everybody isn't going to try their best to find a solution, they all do, right? All families are looking for their best solution, and the families who have more means are not surprisingly able to find a solution. Yeah. Right? Whether the district provides it or not.
And, rather than saying, well, they shouldn't, there's a model then. To me, that's what we look at that. Oh, well, good that they're doing that. Let's look at it. Let's see how we can duplicate that over here. Instead,
exactly.
Then no, you can't do it. Go do it and experiment, pilot, and then let's build on that. So it's all together. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. What's happened is it was just approached as, oh, this is the only way we can be equitable. And no, that's not the only way you can be equitable. There's more than one way to look at that.
Yeah.
So I think that will happen in the near future.
Yeah.
I just did want to point out a couple of things since the last time we talked, and that is I want to do a shout out for best practices to San Luis Coastal District. And the two best practices that I wanted to commend them for is, first of all, that they're rebuilding teacher housing in a closed elementary school. And they're going to have 150 homes that are going to be for staff and teachers there. And I think that's a really important thing for all of us to look at in terms of how we're going to reuse property and to elevate housing to the level that it needs to be looked at. And the other one was just a very simple thing, but I was impressed when I went to their website to see this. And that was that they have a public agenda planner on the front page of their website, so that you can see how they're looking at their agenda for the entire year. And just understand the flow of the things that come before a board that are of interest. And also the public has more access to ask for things to be put on an agenda. And the agenda really should be, I believe, the public's. So that if a member of the public wants to have a conversation with the board and with the whole community, there should be a space for them to do that. And you shouldn't be looking for ways for other people to just frame it in a much more narrow way.
Yeah.
And that's, this sort of allows that kind of transparency.
Yeah, I like that a lot. We need to suggest that to the new board, and I will definitely take that to the county.
Yeah.
So, because we're going to be doing a lot of things over there that probably haven't
Yeah.
done in a long time.
Right.
Um,
And you want people to know you're doing it, right?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and the community members have great ideas, and if you, it sort of inspires people to share their
Yeah.
ideas, because there's a place to do it as
Yeah.
opposed to
Exactly.
nowhere.
I know. Just being disgruntled.
Yeah, and that's all you hear then, right?
Yes.
Right. And then the other update I did want to mention, because we've talked about this, is Prop 15, we know, failed. And one of the reasons it failed was that the head of the NAACP at that time, Alice Huffman, worked very hard to defeat it, and really was one of the faces of the whole presentation around defeating Prop 15 and keeping our schools from getting the funding that we need just to move up from being the bottom of the list nationally. But Ms. Huffman, who it turns out also was a political consultant who made a great deal of money from the against Prop 15, and I believe also Prop 16.
Oh.
Ms. Huffman is no longer in that position. So the NAACP and those within it have moved on from Ms. Huffman. However that all exactly happened, at least what we know is that they have disengaged, and Ms. Huffman is no longer part of the NAACP, which is, I think, good news for all of us, and whatever effort we're going to do in the future to try to make sure that we do get additional funding for education, and for the cities, because the cities are also getting money from that.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
Okay, and now tell us
Yeah.
about what you've been up to, Miss Laura, Trustee
Yeah.
Laura.
I had a great week. As you know, let's see. On Wednesday, that will be my last school board meeting of West Contra Costa Unified School District. And so that will be it. My goodbye to everybody. So I hope people join in and log in. And then my first county board meeting will be on Wednesday, the 16th. This has always been a problem. The West County and the county have always been the same date at the same.
Yep.
They're a little bit earlier, but still, and they're short ones, but still they're at the same time.
Yep.
And somebody was saying we should look at that. I mean, and just look at it in terms of county-wide. Somebody said they looked and they seem to all be on Wednesdays, and that's not good for, I don't know, networking and for,
Right.
those kinds of collaborations. They should spread them out, alternate them or something. Anyway, so
right. I mean, honestly, it could be the other Wednesdays, right? It doesn't have to be first and third. It could be second and fourth.
Yes, because it's not every Wednesday, it's alternating. So especially, well, yeah, we need to do that. So the 16th is when I will have, there's be the ceremonial swearing in. So another time that you could log in and participate in that as well. So that will be fun.
Mm-hmm.
So what I did get to do this week was go to the CSBA, which is the California School Board Association Conference. And normally it would be down in San Diego, and I went with Madeline, I've gone with Trustee Cuevas, and but this time it was virtual. And it was very good, even though it was not in person. I think the thing I missed was collecting all those pens.
Yes.
Or cups, the cups and pens,
Yes.
because I have all these cups and all these pens.
Yeah.
That was my collection. Um, but anyway, there were a couple of things that I picked out were really great, and that is there was one put on by the lawyers talking about the hot topics right now, statewide, in terms of legislation and things that are going on. There's a lot, in fact, going on. The topics were the Voter Rights Act. Some districts are still fighting that, and I
Of
think
course.
there was one that won. Santa Monica actually won to keep at large because they were able to determine that it was not discriminating against people of color. So I thought that was interesting. So that's still out there. We gave up.
Yeah.
It went,
Yeah.
and it actually worked to our benefit.
It did actually.
I think so. We got 2 people on there that I don't think normally would have. So for us, it was a good way to go. There's rules now. We're ahead of some of these other districts on governing board and the Brown Act. There's a bill addressing those. Special ed is a big topic right now because districts do not have a waiver of providing special ed services. You just got to figure out how to do it. So,
Right.
so that's where everybody is. And there could be lawsuits. And that's where the lawyers come in. There could be lawsuits involved with this. And what we have to do mostly at the district level is update our policies. And that might help cover some of those things. And especially now in this time of the pandemic, it's just everything's new, so what does it look like? How do we address those issues? Charter schools, people still have to update their charter school policies because of 1505. And there's a lot of that going on, reassessing that. The one I found, there was one on ethnic studies, again, that's increasing, and there's a lot of movement in that. They're trying to get more. These I thought were the most important, or that I thought were really critical. The defunding of the police. What does that mean? And they put that in parentheses because I don't think, when you get down to it, most people aren't saying defund as much as they're saying redo or reimagine or rethink, not defund, like no more at all.
Well, defund intimates dismantle, right?
Yeah,
and that's not going to happen, and that's really not anybody's intent.
No, I don't think so. I mean, maybe a few, but and what we have going on here, we have a safety committee going on, and now I've already had my last meeting, but they're going to continue, and they're collecting data, they're collecting information from students and from everybody to come up with a really good safety plan. And they've talked with the different police departments to include them. So I think we're going to come up with something really good there. But this was the one that I thought was really interesting. In this time of social justice and Black Lives Matter, free speech, and defining of hate speech. What exactly is hate speech on a campus, in a classroom? And it was they even brought up Albany, because apparently Albany Unified School District right over here had some really severe cases of racism against students. And so it was, this is really not going to go away. We really need to get ahead of this. And they were even, suggesting perhaps resolutions where we define for ourselves, for our students, what hate speech is, and then freedom of speech when it comes to our employees. We have employees who, they are also social justice activists, and so they may, where is their definition of freedom of speech as well? So I thought those were really, really interesting.
It's a really, political speak. I mean, it is fascinating. I mean, and especially the teachers who are government teachers, or teachers who've talked about politics forever. And honestly, they can be on any end of the spectrum. They could be from more progressive to being ultra conservative, right?
Yeah.
So the question is how you're able to express what's your own opinion versus what's, what history is, and that's the whole ethnic studies conversation, right? But
Yeah.
also what you do with your opinion, right?
Yes. Yes.
And where the lines are around that.
The ultimate goal of all of these things. And so that's another one that's not going to go away. We're going to
No, not at all.
for
That's
a long
no.
time. So it would be good. It would behoove us to get in front of it and start looking at different policies. And CSBA says they have some. They have some sample policies on controversial issues and political action and employees. So those would be good for us
Yeah.
to look at. Defining what a safe space is. All of this language that our children are looking to us to lead them in this area. How do they navigate this? And so we really need to get ahead of that. That's important work. So we're going to definitely be looking at those and maybe bring some best practices forward of other districts and how they're doing it, and
Right.
these different
And,
strategies.
and if you don't do it, this is the thing, oh, you don't need to do that. That's extra work. No, because if you don't do it, what happens is it's not like these problems go away.
No.
They just there's just no way to manage them, right?
Yeah.
To really be able to come back and say to your teachers, here's what's appropriate, and here's where you go over a line.
Yeah.
Right.
And what it's doing is, right now it's about racial justice. We have to be leaders in this. We have to provide that guidance. We really do. So we're going to be exploring that a lot more. I was really glad about that, to look at that. And then the other really great one was on the disproportionality in student discipline. And again, these are issues of race and in different policies. And this was an interesting thing. One of the ladies, I think it was Glenview, where they've done, because they always have a district come up and say, here's what we did and here's how it worked out. And this was something I always think it's the policy. You got to change the policy. That's what's wrong. She thought that also. I think she was a principal, and she said she found something different. What she found, that it's more the bias of individuals, that implicit bias in how they interpret or use that policy. So she said she felt like, and she felt it was more that they were finding those biases, preconceived ideas, stereotypes, that was the bigger issue than the actual policy itself.
Right.
Now that I thought that was different for me.
Well, it is. It's interesting, and what you've got there is everybody reads the policy through their life experience. Your bias is your life experience.
Yeah.
Right. And until you revisit and rethink your life experience, the whole idea around privilege only becomes a topic when you look at yourself from outside.
Yeah.
And that's a new experience for a lot of people. Yeah. Right. And for a lot of our teachers. And that's really, she's right, I think, that becomes a thing. If you hear a policy and you're interpreting the policy as it makes sense to you in your life experience, and you're not given the tools to challenge that, your perspective of it, right, then you wind up with a different set of behaviors. So that's the big conversation.
That is
big conversation.
It makes it a lot more complex.
Yes.
And it kind of relates to the things we were talking about before, hate speech, and so it's all a big, it's all related to those. So I want to be doing some work in those areas, both at the county and then suggesting some things for the district as well. So that's what I have. I think that was it.
And one other thing I wanted to point out that you sent me, and that I thought was really a super best practice, is the CTE Education Foundation in Sonoma.
Yes, yes.
That is a really exciting thing. And so the CTE, the Career Technical Education, we have a task force in West Contra Costa. I think that there could be a task force at the county level. And this type of a foundation where you, or an education fund, CTE education fund that they seem to have there, is a collaboration with labor. And there is the model, right?
I know. Yeah.
And there it is. So to the extent that can be grown. I think that all of our kids who are now looking at the many changes in jobs. I mean, certainly this pandemic has shown us a lot of things that are going to look different afterwards. And the biggest one is that the technology is going to grow. And if you ever thought it wasn't going to grow, I mean, obviously it is going to grow. But the construction jobs also are going to grow, because what we need to do is we need to improve our infrastructure. That's been really clear to everybody, right? Yeah. And many other jobs, things that we're doing jobs differently than we did them before, just like here we are on Zoom, right? That's it. So many people are connecting who never could have connected before, and that's not going to stop.
No.
Right?
Yeah. I'm good. I'm glad that was, I saw it and I said, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we're talking about, the MOU.
And they've done it. I mean, there's no question. They have done it.
You never have to reinvent the wheel. Somebody's got it.
Yeah. Yeah. So the thing is to, give them a call, say how they get it started, and figure out
exactly
how to continue it.
On my list. Oh my gosh, I got so many.
Well, you have an incredible list.
I have an incredible list. All right. Well,
and that's it for now. We are in flux. I think we're looking to the changeover of your progression, your farewell to the West Contra Costa board, and you're moving on to the county board, and the many changes that all of our boards, I mean, across the United States. Look at all of the changes we're having, and maybe by next week we'll know who our new Secretary of Education is.
Oh my goodness, I know. And even though I'm changing over from one board over to another, I'm not going anywhere. I'm still here and still going to be doing the same thing. Getting into good trouble as much as I possibly can with my friend Madeline and I.
Yes, here we are. Yes.
So
always looking for our next opportunity to suggest a better way to do stuff. That's really what this is about. So we will end with our brilliant contribution from Carlos.
Yes.
So which one shall we do?
Our timely, I like the second and third one. You pick one.
All right, I'll do the second one. And here it is. I'll read it. I have it.
Okay.
This is from our brilliant Carlos. Why was the candy cane so expensive?
Oh, why was the candy cane so expensive?
Because it was in mint condition.
I love it.
And there we
are, Christmas joke.
That's right. Enjoy your holiday season as we move forward with the holiday season. We'll see you again next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, I just went to recording.